Hi, welcome back everyone. My name is Justin, and today we're going to take a little break from our beekeeping to shift our focus on something else that needs attention on the property. And you guessed it, that's this little wooden chair that we have here. So this is a 1/4 inch split reed. It is woven in a herringbone pattern, and it's coming apart, it's frayed, it's broken, and it's pretty old. So what we're going to do today is show you how to weave a new seat using the herringbone pattern. I'm not going to use a 1/4 inch. I think that a 1/2 inch will look better on this. So we're going to replace it with 1/2 inch split reed. And I'll show you guys how to do that. All right, so let's talk some materials. So the first thing that you're going to need to replace the seat of your split reed chair is some new split reed. So I purchased this off of Amazon. This is a 1 pound coil. I purchased 2 pounds to have in case I needed it. So this 1 pound is what we're going to start with. And like I said, this is a 1/2 inch. What we're going to do first is we're going to place it in some water so it's a little more flexible and we don't have to worry about things breaking. We'll keep that in water for about 15 minutes. So the materials needed, as you see, we have our split reed soaking here in some water. So we'll let that soak for 15 minutes. We have a spool of stainless steel, and we'll use that instead of stapling or anything like that. And these are the other various tools that we'll use to complete this little project. We may not need them all, but this is what I have just in case on standby. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at doing is taking our scissors and just going in and cutting our reed. So that way we can cut it away from our chair. Okay, so we removed the old seat now. As you can see, it was actually done really well. This would have probably stayed on there indefinitely until this completely just deteriorated to the point where you could no longer sit on it. But I had to really yank and pull on this to get it loose even after cutting it. So and also they didn't used to use any kind of metal to tie these up. This one's tied in knots. So whoever had put this together tied it with knots down in the bottom and then pulled their next strand. So it looked like this was a 4 over and 4 under method, but really cool. If you can see those old knots that were tied in it. I'm sure whoever took the time to make this seat is long gone and no longer with us. So we're thankful. We're definitely thankful to those who have went on and taught us how to do different trades. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take, and I thought it's a good time while this is just bare to be able to use some furniture polish to just clean this chair down and sort of coat it really well and preserve it. So also notice I've pulled this frame off. They actually used a frame to weave their seat on, and then they just kind of set it directly on the chair, and that's what was used, and it was kind of tacked down once it was done. So that's how this chair was. Not all of them are done that way. I'm not sure how old this chair is. It's definitely, I'd say, a southern chair, but I'm not sure. 1800s, I would say, at the very least. We'll go ahead and get our chair cleaned. And what I'm using, I purchased this over at an antique mall, and this is Kramer's Best Antique Improver. So it works really well. You guys will see just how well it works, but I'm not trying to promote any kind of furniture polish, as long as you're polishing up the furniture. All right, so to begin with, we're gonna go ahead and begin wrapping our chair. Our reed is dry, so the first thing we're gonna wanna do is figure out which side we want to use for wrapping. So most of the time, and this is still a little damp since we had just pulled it out of the water not too long ago. So you can do that by looking at the reed and telling which side is the hairier side versus which side is the smoother side. Typically, the outside has most of the hairs on this reed, so the inner side is the side that we'll like to use as the top of our chair. So what I'm going to do is take this reed, and we're wrapping it to begin with front to back. So we'll be wrapping it around like this, and once we have it wrapped this way, we'll come all the way starting at the right and come all the way to the left. And then once we have our chair wrapped that way, front to back, we'll go in and do our 3 over 3 under herringbone pattern to finish this chair. If you wrap it with a lot of slack, you don't want to have it too much slack, because then your chair's just going to be sloppy. You want it to be just right. You also don't want it to be too tight, because then as you're weaving your 3 over 3 under, there's not going to be a whole lot of room. It's going to be very difficult to complete your wrapping. So you don't want it to be too loose, and you don't want it to be so tight that you can't get your weaves under. You want it to be just in between. So that way there's a little bit of slack in there, and you can still weave your pattern, your herringbone pattern, and complete the chair without much difficulty. So we'll get started with it. So what we're gonna do first is take our chair, and I'm going to take a piece of our wire that I had pre-cut, and I'm going to take and wrap this. So I'm gonna give myself a little slack, and I'm just gonna take this wire and wrap it around my reed, just to hold it in place. Is that right? Just enough slack. So I'll hold this up so you guys can see it. So right here is our wrap with the metal. And then from here, we're just going to take and go around our chair. All right, so once you get to the end of your reed, that's where our handy dandy clamp is going to come in play. So we're going to take our reed and clamp it right in the back so we can hold that in place. So if you see that, that way we can get our next strand of reed, making sure we want to keep the hairy side down. We're going to want to then take our reed and give ourselves plenty of room when we tie it. So instead of just giving ourselves just the amount we need, we're going to go a little extra and take our wire and tie it around that strand. Okay. If you come up where your strand is up top, you're going to want to cut it down right in the middle somewhere. That way you can tie it together at the bottom. Because we don't want to start our strand at the top. All right, so now you can see we have our wrap completed from front to back. So the next thing we're gonna do is create our herringbone pattern. So this is the part that is, once you start doing it, it starts to make sense about halfway through. So we're gonna do, in order to get the herringbone pattern, we're gonna do a 3 over 3 under method. And each time we go over 3 and under 3, then we're going to stair step it back 1. So that way it will create a running pattern and look like the herringbone pattern. So we'll get started with that and just Trust me, it'll look like it should when we're finished, I hope. So with this stair step method of 3 over and 3 under, we're going to start by going, you can do it either way, 3 over and 3 under to begin with, but we'll just do just like we said, a 3 over. So we're going to go over 1, 2, 3, and under 1, 2, 3. And then over 3 and under 3. And so see, this is why it's important to get some slack into our seat. 1, 2, 3. Because it would be a little more difficult to do it if we didn't have any slack. And as we go through, we will use up the slack. So when we get towards the end, it can be tough for us. Okay. So that's our first run. Pull it all the way to the back, as close as we can get it. And then we're going to turn our chair over and go from the bottom. So So 3 over, 3 under. Hope you guys can see that okay. All right, so we've got our first strand. So we want to get started off on the right foot. So the first thing that we're going to do to get this herringbone pattern, we want to stair step it back 1. So we went over 3 and under 3, over 3, under 3 on the first round. The second one, we're going to go over 2 to step back just 1. And then from then on, we're going to go under 3 and over 3, under 3 and over 3, then under 3 and over 3. Okay, and that's how we stair step it back each time. And as long as we're doing that each time, by the time, it'll look like this, by the time we get to the front, we'll have that herringbone pattern that we want to see. So we'll keep going. And so now we'll start back with over 1. Okay, so I just wanted to make a note so that way you guys know what to do after you've gone 3 over and then you took a step back and did 3 over and took a step back and did 3 over and you finished that sequence. So once you've finished that sequence one time, then you're going to take for the herringbone pattern and you're going to go again. It's always going to be a 3 over 3 under, and we're going to do a step back. But once you get to the end of your 3 over 3 under, which is 1, 2, 3 over, then we're just going under. Then we're going to do a under 3 over 3. Then a under 3 and over 3. And under 3, over 3, under 3, over 3. So we're going to do that until we get to the end. Okay, so then the next, when we do a step back from that, we'll come back from, we'll do a stair step back from that sequence. Again, this starts to look like we know what we're doing after about halfway through. All right, so as you can see, we have a complete herringbone chair. So this pattern, you can see, has turned out really well, I think. So what we're doing now is just going through, and as I see any of these fibers or hairs sticking up, I'm just taking some scissors and snipping them off. So this is what it looks like. The bottom, as you see, is not as pretty as the top, but that's okay because nobody's looking at the bottom. All right, so what we'll do is let this sit for overnight, and tomorrow I'll come in and take a clear coat, and we'll just clear coat this top just to make sure it's sealed and a little more durable than it was previously. And if you're looking at this as compared to this, it's I believe a success. Though this is it was really nicely done. Like I said, the old hands who put this together was very much appreciated. So we will come back tomorrow and put a clear coat and finish this chair up. All right, so we have our finished chair, and I'll pull it closer so that you guys can see the finished product. So this is what our end result looks like. So I think it turned out really nice. So what we're gonna do now, just the very last thing, is we're going to coat this with a clear coat. So what I have here, I picked up, it's a polyacrylic, water-based, clear satin finish. And it's just gonna add some protection to this seat and give it a little bit more life, and keep these little hairs that tend to stick up. It'll keep that from sticking up as quickly and as much. Eventually this will wear down, and you can either coat it again or just replace it after the years. But that's what we'll do to top this off and finish the project. And then you're completely finished. Zoom in a little bit so that you folks can see what we're doing. All right, so that is it. We're gonna let this dry, and once it's dry, you can sit on it and enjoy your chair for many more years to come. So I hope you all have enjoyed this video, and have a great day.